Hey guys, welcome back to the second part of my case tour. So it takes longer than expected because I said, sorry, I'm a bit sick. My voice is not so good today, but I wanted to go on with the tour because I think it's important for me. So yes, as I said, I wanted to do a quick tour just showing the modules because you don't hear them. As I said in the part one, I don't have the setup which I can talk and mix in the sounds from the case at the moment. So I thought it will be very fast, but I have a couple of modules which it is good to explain a bit, I think, because perhaps if somebody is watching this, wanting to go into modular and understanding things, it's good. And additionally, for me, what I realized that I learn a lot when I try to explain things, because then sometimes I realize I didn't know a shit about it. And so oscilloscope is, in my opinion, one of the most important things you should have if you go into modular, because it's sometimes much easier to understand when you see things like CV, values, shapes, and so on. And this is why I, sorry, go back to this module, the Jasmine olive trees water. So as I said, it's 3 firmware. It's traffic, water, and hotel on one module, and they have the overlays here. And what is really cool is you have all 3 firmwares directly on the module, and when you put it out, you have a switch on the back, or I think 2 dip switches, I'm not sure, I think it's 2, but making sure you can switch the firmware without a computer or without USB and changing the firmware on the module, because all 3 of them are already there and you can switch. That's perfect. So shout out. This is really cool, in my opinion. Yesterday, yes, it was yesterday, part one. I just made it very briefly here what it does, and I think it's important to show just something that you get a better feeling. So it's triggered here by the clock. You have 3 outgoing checks here, and like I said, you can dial in CV values here, which are like a sequencer, will be played, and the 3 outputs do different things with it. So when I just plug this one in and second one, so okay, hopefully you see it good. So when I just increase one CV value here, you see we have 2 traces. The blue one is check A, the green one is check B. So you see it's shifted, which means when you just use the 3 of them without doing anything else, you have your sequence. Oh, okay. You have your sequence shifted. Then what you can do, so I introduce just a bit more. So the second one, okay, I have to have a bit more complex waveform. You see signal B is just later than signal A. Now what you can do is to use this random switch for the phase or for all, which means and this is special. When you switch on randomness, it's randomized in the moment you switch, and will then stay there, which means when you switch back to the normal mode and in random mode again, you will have a different result, which means now you see when I switch randomness phase, now you see it changed the phase shift between the two, A and B, but it stays like it is. When I go back to normal mode, you have the pattern. Then I just reduce this so it's easier to see. Okay, this is the normal, let's say the normal mode here. You have A and then B, and if I would have a third one here in the oscilloscope, you would see that C will be after that. Now again, random phase. You see this time output B is before output A. Back to normal. And now again, randomness phase. And you see B is before A, but earlier than before. And what you can do additionally is to use randomization for all. Okay, now let's create a bit more complex pattern. So interesting. Okay, I think it's a bit, sorry, it's a bit complicated to see, but I think this is the easiest one. Okay, I randomize all. Now you see it's absolutely randomized, which means the phase is randomized and the steps are randomized too. So we only have two steps, this higher one, the lower one, which in normal mode looks like that, as you've seen, and one after the other. And when I randomize all, you see it changes everything, but every time I switch it on, which means this is really cool. You cannot recreate what you have done with randomness, so just beware if you use it for modulation and you have something which you really like, and you switch back from random to normal mode, the randomness is yeah, like the name says, it's randomness. It's gone after that. So it's a bit like looping in a Turing machine. Okay, sorry, longer than expected, but I think it's important because this module is really cool. I love it, and it's creating cool looped CV modulations for, as I said, mainly for my drums. I use it. Okay, the next module, which is a complex one, is Shakmat's Griffin claw. The last month I got a couple of Shakmat modules because they have really cool stuff, and what I needed for a long time or wanted for a long time is something like that, which I show you. We just have, like you see, you can use it as a attenuator, verter, whatever, creator of CV. You see when I go up here, it's just increasing the voltage. And what I can do is cool is, so I hope you see that. You have different functions here. We can change the offset, and now you see when I go up, it's roughly 2 volts. So the main, the top voltage, when I go to offset again and put it to max, oscilloscope cannot show it, but you see it's going up much faster, and if I put it to the top, you don't see it because it's more than 2 volts, which is the scale on the oscilloscope. Then you can use it as a normal mixer. Just put in. This is a waveform from the oscillator here. You see that? And additionally, you can change the amplitude here, the mode. When you go to amplitude, you can change this. And now this is max. When I go to amplitude to the max, and you see this is max. So you can configure the maximum of the fader, or the how do you call it, sensitivity somehow? Yeah, it's not the sensitivity, it's the scale from here to there, and indirectly sensitivity. But what is really cool here is that you can record, which means, I'm not sure if you see that. When I press just the number of fader 1, and I can just record, let it go. Okay, I changed something. So this is a bit weird in this module. Sometimes it does not what I want to do it, and I don't know why sometimes. Yeah, it's not recording anymore because I changed something. Okay. Now it recorded. So this is sometimes, I'm not sure, perhaps there's new firmware, because when I bought it, it was absolutely new when it came out. I wanted to have it, and perhaps I should have a look if I can, if I can update it. Okay. Now see, it's blinking, which is showing that I recorded something. And when I put out here the waveform, you see what I recorded. And what's cool here, it's a bit difficult to show without hearing something. It's clocked, and the recording, which I did, can be clocked, and not only clocked, it can be quantized, which means it's I think it's that's a good question, what exactly it is. And this is what I mean when you try to explain something. When you try to explain and you cannot explain it correctly, you know that you did not really understand it. So you can just clock it to the clock and quantize means it's somehow quantized to bars, the changes. But okay, I have to read what it's doing exactly. I have a feeling when I use it, I know what it feels like, but cannot explain. Okay, lessons learned. Okay, but it's a cool module because you have attenuation, you have mixer, you can create control voltages, you can record it, and you can clock it. And this is cool because I use the America Synths Black joystick, which has a record function because I bought it because of the record function, which is really cool to create modulations you want, but it is not clocked. And when I first tried it, I know I did some kind of techno melodic whatever thing, and it drifted away from the beat because it's just not clocked. And so this I waited for a module like this. This is really cool, but yes, I have to learn about what the quantization really means, and I have to see if there's an update firmware. Because as I said, sometimes it's not recording, and the record you see here, you can erase. Now it's erased and it's the normal attenuator again. And you have normalization here, which means when you have one signal in here, the out is normalized to the next one, which you can mix things with it. So yes, okay, I think that's enough on this module. If you're interested, there are a couple of videos out there to explain it, and better than I can, I think. Next is the Contour 1 from Joranalogue, or what the right name is. It's some kind of envelope. Put it in here. This is not so good with all the cables. Sorry. I hope you see it. And again, this has a trigger. This has a trigger what I really like. Okay, just changing the voltage scale. Okay. You see it's an envelope or modulator. You can trigger. You can make really short, plucky ones or longer ones. This is cool for modulating things. And then you can loop it, which I do here. It's easier than pressing the trigger again and again. And then you can bend the rise and the fall like you want, and can create really cool CV shapes. You can put it to audio rate. And what's cool here is that you have additional outputs, like the inverted one, which is, as the name says, inversion. And you have rise and fall here. And I didn't really know what it does before putting an oscilloscope in. I could have read the manual, but I didn't. I love trying things out. So when I put it here in rise, you see you have one gate, the blue one here, which is high in the rise phase. So when I change rise to short, you see, or you don't see. Okay, when I just increase the rise time, you see we have this gate which is active or high as long as we have the rise phase. And same for fall. And you can do cool stuff with that, because as soon as the envelope rises, you can do things, or when it falls, or while it falls. Okay, you can CV things like the rate, band of both, you have gate and trigger ins, you can hold and so on. So this is a nice module which I do not use like I should, but really like it. Okay, I think, I think part 2 will be, we're 20 minutes in and did 3 modules, perfect. Oh yeah. Okay, because the next one is a real complex one. I think part 2 will end after the Black Octasource from Erica Synths, because I think this will take a bit. And this is an LFO with different waveforms and phase shifting, which means when you just take this one here. Okay, sorry, trying to put that here. I think that's easier, hopefully. Okay, this is quite simple. This is just a sine wave. This output here, and it has really cool and sometimes weird waveforms. Okay, let's stick with a sine wave. I think it's easier. And make it a bit. Okay, more up to scale. So like you see, you have positive and negative, which is represented by the color. Red is positive and green is negative voltage. This is a bipolar LFO. You see it. What's above this line is positive voltage. What's below is negative. But you can change it later on to that. And now when I take this out, it's phase shifted. You see it. It's 90-degree phase shifted, which means you have the same waveform, but shifted, which means later on, if you want to say it like this. If I take this here, it's 180 degrees. And this here is 135, if I'm right. Which is a cool thing for modulation if you have these phase shifts. So now you have this switch here. Okay, you have this. This is a speed. You can change it. Very slow, you see it, and very fast. Okay, I take the 90-degree shift. Oh, is it 45 at 90? No. Same here again. It's phase shifted. Let's say it like that. Okay, this is the speed. What's cool in this LFO is that you can clock it. You see, this is the same with the clock from PAM. And when I'm reducing the clock rate, okay, let's see. Okay, I reduce the clock rate. Now I'm rising it again. You see the blinking here is the clock. This is really cool because you have a clocked complex LFO. Okay, I unclock it for now. I think it's easier. And change it to something we can see here. Okay, we have this switch here, which you can change from single to multi. Single means you have one waveform for every output. So on every output you have the same waveform, like the sine wave here. If we change the waveform here, you see both are the same, just shift it. Okay, back to sine. And when you switch to multi, you have a different waveform on every output. You see it here. When I switch, you see that you have different waveforms. Okay, now when I take this one out here and put it in there, you see we have complete different things. And when I change it, everything changes. So this is really cool, and this is why I said you need an oscilloscope, or you just do things and change and turn knobs and faders and whatever and see what happens. This is what I do normally. But sometimes it's good to have the oscilloscope to see what happens. What you can do additionally, so let's switch back to Singer. I think it's easier, and to a sine wave. Okay, so what you can do additionally is it has an okay, here you have the sync input. This is wave CV, which means you can this button here, which changes the waveform, you can CV also. So you could self-patch it somehow, I think. I haven't tried it out. Then you has FM level and an FM input. And what's cool here, we now use oscillator. Take this black black wavetable VCO. And okay, multiple things. Okay, I can put it here in the FM. And when it, okay, I think it's better to use this one here, the Alia, because I can trigger it. Okay, and I'm not sure if we will see that. So this is our normal LFO behavior, and when I put the trigger here, you see it changed the waveform a bit. Triggering again. As we do not hear things, it's a bit complicated to explain, I think. But what's cool with the FM, you can have influence on the waveforms. And what's cool also is when you use, let's see, the phase CV. And there you can phase CV is modulating the phase shift. You see it's blinking here, which means it's not phase shifted right now like normal when there's nothing plugged in. You have this. As soon as you have something plugged in here, it's showing this status, which means you have only one phase, and you can then change it. Right now I've plugged in an envelope here, and as soon when I fire this envelope, you see it has influence on the phases. This can be used with another LFO also, and let's use this one here. It's looped. You see, you can create really interesting things, because the phase shift of the different outs is depending on this LFO envelope, whatever. So you can directly influence what's coming out here with the incoming signal in the phase CV. So it's cool, but it's really unpredictable. For me, it's absolutely unpredictable with this module, what you can achieve when you just use wave CV, phase, FM, even if you just plug it in and change the waveforms and clock it somehow. So this is really cool and very complex in my opinion, because as I said, I don't have an exact idea, not an exact no idea sometimes what will happen, because what's coming out here I could not have predicted. But it's interesting. It's okay when I use a really slow one here, slow envelope. You see? And this is cool if you have a patch where you need a lot of modulation, or if you want to do generative things. This is perfect because you can just patch in phase CV, FM, clock it with a not static clock, whatever, and this will create things you didn't even know that they exist. And that's cool. And one trick, additionally, I put it out here to make it a bit easier, is what I didn't know, because it's a bipolar one, and sometimes I don't need bipolar CV, I need unipolar, which is only 0 to positive, not negative voltage, because some modules need positive voltages for modulation. And what you can do here is you see the two colors. I said red is positive, green is negative, as far as I know. When you put it to 12 o'clock and then switch a couple of times, okay, now you see it switched to red, and it's unipolar. It's only generating positive voltages. This is interesting because, and it's a good feature. What I don't understand that they did not just have a switch. You can switch it, because what I have to admit, I'm not sure how I can switch it back. And yeah, I had one patch running, and then I wanted to switch it back and didn't know why and how I do it, and just put the module out and disconnected it from power because I couldn't power down the case. So perhaps if somebody knows how you can switch it back to bipolar again, leave me a comment. Would be happy. And yes, so I said, and this is a real complex module and really cool. I can just encourage you to try it out if you have it, and use an oscilloscope and the out to whatever. If you have something which needs high modulation, like here the Odessa, or what I want to try out, the Sophia oscillator. These live for modulation as far as I understood. So okay, half an hour again, only for part 2. Okay, so this is roughly not no whole hour, but nearly, for one row. I think later on, when we have the oscillators, this will be much faster, but I think the modulation is base of a lot of things you can do in modular, and it's important to understand, and it's important to get a feeling what the module does, because oscillator is much easier in my opinion. Yeah, you have FM through FM, through 0 FM, other things. Yes, this is complicated too, but you can turn and you have a sound, and this LFO, phase shifting, whatever stuff is was for me much harder to understand. And now perhaps you have a feeling why when you see what the black Octasource does with the oscilloscope here and all these features. Okay, I'll stop here with part 2. We have one row, so a couple of things to go. So I think I will make additional parts as fast as I can, and perhaps the next one will be much easier and faster, hopefully. Hope it helps. Feel free to comment if you have questions. Feel free, as I said and realized while explaining things, sometimes you know that you don't know how it works when you want to explain it. So if you think you understood, take a mate, whoever, and try to explain to him or her what it does. And when he or she says, "Hey, yes, I got it, you're good." If not, then perhaps you did not really understand how it works. And this is nice about modular, in my opinion. You never know everything, and that's cool because it lives from experiments and try out things and then have a feeling and a basic understanding how it works. Okay, over and out. See you soon. Hopefully have a good time. Stay safe. Bye bye.